Good morning and welcome to another episode of Frank's Fish Room. We've got our beautiful pair of koi angelfish this morning and she's feeling frisky. Her tube is down, he's all ready. We gave him a little something for breakfast, but then we came in here and we're making a video, so we're kind of disturbing their intimate moment. We're going to get right back to doing our nice video here about how to make baby brine shrimp eggs in the Frank's Fish Room way. So I'm going to wander over here a little bit. My video helper will follow me. I'm going to show you the container that I use to make baby brine shrimp. Now this is one of those ones where they want to tell you how much water to drink, which I never quite make it to here. I usually go here and need to keep chugging. The nice thing about this device is it has over here how many ounces of water are going into it. And when it does that, you can accurately tell how much salt water to add for how many eggs. So if you're doing about 2 scoops of eggs using this little scooper here, you want to go to about 24. 3 scoops, 32. 4 is 40. 48 would be about a 5. That's what I do. So we're going to put this to the side for the moment, and we're going to put our scooper here. We're going to get our pack of eggs ready, and I'll show you how we do that. But first I'm going to show you the result, the fruits of our labor, of what we end up with when we use this container. I go to my hatching station, which in kind of a obscure location, because when you have a lot of stuff going on, every inch matters. I'm sure we've all been there. So I'll pull this one. I have 3 in a row. This one was made 12 hours ago. That's a 24. That's a 36. So we're going to take the 36 out of rotation because it's ready. If we go much further than 36, we start to lose nutritional value, because the brine shrimp continually grow, and as they grow, they use the essential Hufa A amino acids, which are the magic that keeps your baby fish growing fast. So we're going to take this container. You'll notice it's got some dirtiness. We can get some of the living stuff off, but we don't want the dirty into our stuff. We take our little container, we put it to the side, and we're going to do a straining. This strainer is probably the most effective thing that I've seen. Most brine shrimp eggs are not, strainer nets are not large enough to do the job properly. So what this is, believe it or not, this is the back panel of a pair of men's briefs. Not shorts, but the jockey briefs. Clean, may I add. These are clean. They were never used. We used the back panel, and it just has the perfect mesh pattern. I use it like this. If you want to get innovative, put it on a net, fancy sewing, great. By all means, expand upon my methods, because do what works for you. Do what works best for you. I take my mix and I pour it into here. And you have to be a little patient, because you got a lot of particles and eggs and all kinds of hatched eggshells and stuff that are going to catch. You're going to get to about half of this container. You're going to notice that you're getting kind of full there. Well, you'll let this strain a little bit. And this is why I'd say you might want to make yourself a net and soda sides and all that stuff. But that becomes a little more difficult when you do the actual dumping into a container. So I use these little deli containers because they're readily available and pretty cheap. So this works well for me. They crack if you drop them. They only last a certain amount of time, but hey, just go buy another thing of potato salad and you can get a new one. So we're straining all this stuff out, all the good stuff, but you got the bad stuff too, and you have to be careful, otherwise this thing will fall in there. If it falls in there, then you're just going to have to strain it again. You notice how nasty all of this is, and this is because there's bacteria that grow. There's all kinds of wonderful things in with these brine shrimp. Some of the things include hydra. So you can get hydra hatchlings in there. Now, if you do get some hydra and you're noticing you have a problem, you can use, I forget what exactly it is, but let's see, what is our active ingredient in here? You can use some of the deworming flake. I get this from Angels Plus. It works well. You can use a little bit of this deworming flake either in your aquarium Or the other thing you can do is you can take just a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, 3%, and when you make your new batch of salt water, you add just a little bit of HP3. Like maybe 10 drops to this 40 ounce. And what that'll do is that'll kind of burn the Hydra eggs. And the Hydra won't be completely eliminated, but the numbers of them that you're going to get will be far less. So here's the gold right here. This is what we did all the sifting for. You got eggs and you see all that brown. Those are the egg capsules. You don't want your fish to eat the egg capsules because they can't pass them through their bowel system very well and they could get impacted. And this is why I don't have a handle on mine, because I use these little jars and I have to sift out all the golden goodness here. And there's a little left. Don't worry about that. And I'm going to dump this over here in the sink. And I'm going to take and I'm going to run back over here, over to this spot right here. And this is all in suspension. You'll notice it's getting a little thicker on the bottom because there's not a lot of oxygen in here right now. These guys need a lot of oxygen. When you take and you pull the air tube off of it, they start to get drowsy and they don't have so much activity and they fall to the bottom. And that works to our benefit because the egg capsules float. So then we can separate them. I'm going to dump this real quick. While that's separating, I'm going to show you how I make my salt water. And I've already got my bucket in the sink over here. I have well water. The beautiful thing about my well water is it's pretty close to perfect for me to use right away. I get a little bit of a high carbon dioxide reading and a low oxygen reading from my groundwater because the bacteria in the ground are using all the oxygen, so I get a little bit of a pH weirdness, but if it sits for half an hour, it's absolutely beautiful again. So I can use my tap water. Now, you may not be able to use your tap water, and you might have to take a bucket of water that has chlorine or chloramine in it, and you may have to treat it with your sterilant removers, your chloramine remover or your dechlor remover, and use whatever method you want. Make your 5-gallon bucket and let it sit a while. You may have to let it sit for a day to be safe. So you may have to have 2 buckets, one with tempering water, one that's ready to use. And so I can just take my water right out of the tap and I can add salt. Now I use, of course, kosher salt. Doesn't matter what brand, you can use anything you want. The iodine is the thing that you do not want to use. You can use really expensive reef crystals. You can use instant ocean marine salt. You can use bigger bags of kosher salt. I use these little boxes. Little box is nice for me because I go through these little boxes pretty quick. The wife picks them up. Every other week she might pick me up 2 little boxes. It's a little more expensive that way, but my salt flows real nice. It'll dump into there really nice. I don't have to worry about chunks and hunks, and it's pretty sanitary. It's compact, it saves space, all that fun stuff. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to put the amount of salt that I think I need, because I know I can just go crazy for a little bit. Off the seat of my pants, which is doing this 150 times, I can say, well, I can dump a significant amount in there. And then I'm going to take and blast my water in there. I use a whole bucket of this. You probably can't hear me as well because now we got water blasting, but I blast the whole bucket of this into here to about this point right here. And I stick my ugly old arm in there and I swirl it around a little bit. My pump kicks on to give me more water. That's my pump pulling from my well. And I'll get this up a little higher. And you'll notice that I'm going to wait till the pump kicks off to tell you more information because I want you to hear this. It's all important. The temperature of this really doesn't matter. I mix about an even amount. You'd like to be about 75 degrees. The warmer your eggs are, once you get to your eggs, the better your hatch rate will be. You'll probably be at about 80 degrees for an ideal temperature on your water. So again, I added my salt water, my salt to my water, and now I'm going to see with a hydrometer, and I use this type of hydrometer with the little float. If I were to take this and just add regular tap water to it, my little float doesn't float up. Oops. My little float don't float up. If I get any kind of salt in here, and there's some because there was a little in the bottom of my bucket, I get a floating hydrometer. Come on. There you go. So I'm at 1.012 right now. That's not enough. So we stir this up a little, make sure we get the stuff off the bottom. Take a little more salt. And I notice it's a little tedious watching salt go into a bucket, but it's all, you know, we'll get there. We're going to get to where we want to go. Just be a little patient with us. All right, put it up there for a moment, stir it up again. You might take 2 or 3 hits, you know, to get it to where we want to be. Here we go. We're climbing a little bit. Now, the important thing is just be patient, because all of a sudden you're going to get there. The first couple of digits, it takes a while to get to. But all of a sudden you get there and you're like 19 or 24 and you're like, darn, I got to pour a little out or use some. Play a little bit. There we go. Let's see where we are now. And we're getting a lot closer. So here we are. We're at 1020, which is usable. I like it like that. I let my bucket sit for a week. It'll probably evaporate off. 021 is ideal. Anywhere between 19 and 23 works pretty good. You get a pretty good hatch rate. Below that, not so much. Some people like to use a method where I like to wash this out so it doesn't get sticky, because otherwise you let it dry and it gets sticky. So always wash this out. Otherwise you get salt crystals in there and it gets in a hinge and you can't use it. There's a lot of different hydrometers. There's floating ones. There's all kinds of different stuff. Pick the one that you like the best. I like this one. You just don't drop it because you break it. They're fragile. Might even want to have a spare one around, which I probably should. I take my bucket and I put it in a spot where I like to put my salt water. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. You see how it's kind of not clear. If I let it sit, it'll go nice and clear. And it's not important to have it go nice and clear to add to your brine shrimp, but it's just another detail. If we go over to our eggs, we can see that our eggs pretty much settle. The good guys are on the bottom and all the junk, the dross, is on the top. We're going to take and we're going to clear off all this dross as much as we can. You're never going to be perfect. You'd really like to not dump a lot of your eggs down the drain or your brine shrimp down the drain, but you know, we got a pretty good batch. You do have still some eggs in there, some cysts in there, some capsules. You could, if you wanted to, float this again in another batch and let it resettle. I'm doing angelfish. They don't seem to be that touchy. If you want to do another batch, you can do another batch, another float. So you just take and you'd put this back in the container, you'd add some water, wait another 5 minutes, let it settle out, you'd get another cleaner batch. I don't think you're ever going to get it perfect, but you'll get it pretty close. Some of the commercial ones that guys are selling will drain it off the bottom. That works too. If you want to use one that you buy it, just kind of, you know, mix what I'm doing here into the particular device that you have, and you should be in good shape. So now I'm going to take and strain these again to catch my brine shrimp again. And this is important because the brine shrimp are living in salt water, and the brine shrimp have salt water in their bodies. And what ends up happening is you'll end up putting a lot of salt, a lot of chloride into your angelfish, and that'll give them some problems. We don't really like to put that much salt into the baby angelfish's digestive tract. It all causes problems. We're going to let this settle out, and we're going to talk about the cleanliness of this. This is a toilet brush. It's sold as a toilet brush. This has never been in a toilet brush, or a toilet, I'm sorry. I didn't use this in a toilet. If you use it in a toilet, buy a new one. Don't use it on your brine shrimp. I don't know if it hurt anything, but, you know, just to keep things from being gross. You could use this for a lot of things: cleaning your mags, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, washing your feet, all kinds of stuff. I use it to clean out this container. It's really important to get all this gunk out of here because this is bacteria. I don't know if I covered it accurately, but you might have noticed if if you watch the video a second time, you might have noticed how nasty the water was in these cups when I strained this. And that all has a lot of this same bacteria in it. We want to get rid of bacteria because if the bacteria is in the little brine shrimp or in the container, it goes into the bellies of the fish. You get the fish really sick by putting bacteria right into their bellies, so we like to be clean and sterile. Now, this has dried out a little, so we're going to switch gears a little. And we're going to take this and we're going to put it into here. And I use pretty nice clean RO water to float my brine shrimp into, but you can use whatever you want. And so this dunk, we're going to try to get as much as we can. And then we're going to rinse this off so it don't get stinky for next time. Because foul brine shrimp is really poisonous. You don't want your stuff eating brine shrimp that's been dead for a while. So I rinse it off with a little hot water, hang it here to dry for my next use. And we're going to have these guys, we'll dump this little bit of water. And I'm going to kind of go a little speedy. Hope my videographer can follow me. I'm going to go and scrub out my little container. And yeah, you can think, oh, this guy, he's a little too detail oriented. It's a little boring, but details matter when you're trying to raise baby angelfish, because if your brine shrimp fail on you, you got a problem. You're going to end up having to have some kind of a backup food. And it's always no matter how good you think you are, you can always make a mistake and fail. So you should always have a plan B for your brine shrimps. Wash this out. I clean this out pretty good with hot water. Once in a while I'll replace this. You have to once in a while check the edge of this tube, because as the air hits this, it'll make a little solid clump of salt. I put this into this additionally so that my air would roll up in my bottle and I get a nice rolling pattern inside of my jug to keep everybody looking good. And I'm going to add some salt water now. I'm going to add my salt water to it and get my mark to 40. Touch more. It's already nice and clear. You see how clear it's gotten. And put this to the side. And here we go. We're going to take in, we're going to put 4 scoops in here because our kids are hungry. 1 heaper, 2 heaper, 3 heaper, and then 4. We don't have to go so much because I heat them. So I take my brine shrimp eggs and I buy a 1 pound can of 90% hatch rate. I get it from Brine Shrimp Direct. I usually buy 6 at a time. It gives me the best price. I keep my brine shrimp eggs in the freezer, inside of a Ziploc bag, inside of the can. Double redundant protection from frost and dampness. And so I'll put a certain amount in here, maybe half of this, and I have them ready to use, because running in and out to the fish room every day and upsetting that can or bringing that can out here is not good for the eggs that are being frozen. So I'll take about a 3-day supply and I'll put them here. And if these lose a little bit of their productivity, that's okay. I don't really notice that. But I'd rather do this method than mess around with the other, because then if I'm constantly taking the can in and out of the freezer, I end up with frost around the rim and all kinds of problems as the room humidity gets into the can. So for me, isolating about 3 days into this can and putting it in my fish room on the shelf doesn't really have any negative effects. So I'll take this, seal it all up, and I'm going to put this into rotation now. So the nice thing about this is this little lip, an air tube can fit nice and tight into here. So I can take my air tube. This is going to be a little tricky because I got a real obscure spot. And I stick my air tube down in there and I get my nice rolling bubble. You want a nice bubble because that gives everybody a chance to roll around. Not too much because you don't want the little brine shrimp pulverizing themselves, because that kills them. And dead brine shrimp are not good. So now we've got fresh 12-24. In 12 hours, I'll have maximum hatch rate on this one, and we'll be good. So now I end up with my nice brine shrimp. I got this little bit of dross on the top. So what I do is I always take the little pipette. I put my little pipette in here. I get a nice batch of 100%. Because the shells float, I got about 198% of nice clean stuff. I use this little pipette because I can tell, I have to gauge how much I feed my baby angelfish. Now guys like this, these guys are a little older. They still have a tendency that if you overfeed them, that their bellies can get messed up, but they're not as sensitive. Here I have a little bigger fish. These were done, these a patch probably about, a month ago, maybe some of them almost 2 months ago. And these guys are much more difficult to overfeed because you end up feeding a whole jug of brine shrimp to them. Now back over here, I've got some that are a little smaller. These guys are a little newer, right here. Now these guys were spawned on 3.5 and it's 23 or 22, something like that. So these you still have to be kind of careful. You can harm the bellies on these. If you overfeed your angelfish, you cause problems with their stomachs. You can cause hernias, or you can cause crowding of the swim bladder. And crowding of the swim bladder will result in fish that either float funny, float in a weird way, or float at the top of the tank. So you want to be careful not to overfeed. And I'll do, on this number of fish, probably about a pipette and a half here, and a pipette and a half in the other one. I do have some smaller ones here. I have some little tiny guys up here. You can probably get a look at those. You see the little guys up there. Those guys were born on 312. They're about a week old. They're a little more delicate. You want to really watch them. The one way to gauge with tiny fish like this, which are very prone to getting ammonia poisoned, is see at about an hour how many brine shrimp you have at the bottom of the tank. If you have a lot of brine shrimp at the bottom of the tank, you're overfeeding, and you should siphon that out. So I do have other fish to feed, but I'm going to wrap up this video and not show you all that. We'll return with a general fish room video and show you some of our other fun stuff. I'll feed these guys a little bit while I keep talking. These are black lace zebras, veils. These should be really pretty fish. We've got all kinds of angelfish available almost all the time. We ship all over the United States except Alaska and Hawaii. And I hope that you've gained some knowledge from this and you can use some of this to help you in your fish keeping. Thank you. Have a great day.